Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have with us Chris Rogers, an experienced public school teacher, performer, public speaker, worship leader, as well as a porn addiction recovery coach. And we'll learn about him, his about his mission, that is to advocate for young people to middle high schools mental health and safety while using the internet, promoting self advocacy, awareness, and accountability. So we'll learn from him how to help the young people in in their lives to navigate the digital age with awareness, accountability, and self respect. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate being here.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form, Chris. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people, a lot of young people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll talk about youth mental health. We'll talk about internet safety. We'll also talk about pornography that's becoming an issue for a lot of people. So we'll talk about all this. But before that, let's talk a bit about your journey, your background, your story, so that the audience knows who they are listening to.
Yeah, absolutely. So, once again, my name is Chris Rogers. I am from New York in the United States. I've been here my entire life. I have spent most of my professional career as a teacher. I've been a music teacher in New York City. And for the past couple years, I've actually transitioned to working full time as a addiction recovery coach, particularly in the world of sex and pornography. Now, as soon as I say those words, there are maybe some uncomfortable feelings like, I don't feel, comfortable with talking about that, or let's just talk about something else. This is why it's so important to address this particular world of compulsive behaviors, because it's not often talked about. And the more we sort of resist those types of conversations, the more the stigma will stick around. Now, as somebody who has had their own struggles with, pornography and things of that nature, I know what it's like to be struggling with those things, but feeling like I couldn't talk about it, feeling like it was that awkward thing that no one seemed to be a safe place for. But what my mission is today, through my certification as a porn and sex addiction recovery coach, a relapse prevention specialist, and just somebody with a heart for wanting to meet someone where they're at and wanting to not only teach them a healthier way of living and different coping skills, but also have an open space of empathy. Like, hey, man, I've been there too. I have created two programs that I'm so excited about. The first of which is the Rebooted Teen Parent Program. So for any parents out there listening whose child might be anywhere between 13 to 17, and you might have some suspicions that they've been exposed to pornography at an early age, and they're not really sure how to talk about it, how to address it, then this free program is for you. If you go to rebootedteen.com, I have created a program that is just for you. So if you're interested in how to get started with these types of conversations without making things weird, without making things uncomfortable, and without leading with shame, that program is for you. But particularly for a young person who's maybe fallen on hard times, who's maybe tried to stop this type of behavior on their own and they just can't, there is my baby. And this baby is called the Rebooted Teen Program. And it takes all of my different experiences as a teacher, as a recovery coach, and as somebody who's been through this myself. Again, I remember being 14 years old and discovering pornography for the first time. And it just so happened to grow into a compulsive behavior for me. Tried to stop, couldn't stop. Wanted to stop, couldn't stop. And with all these different combined worlds, this is my magnum opus, and it's for anybody within the ages of, again, 13 to 17, middle school through high school, that want to build that healthier sense of awareness and increase their own mental health, again, without leading the conversation with shame, with guilt. We're going to talk about how the brain works, what you can do to better your own mental health, and making your decisions based on your values. So if anybody's curious about that, you can check out rebootedteen.com. But as far as why I'm here and what I do and who I am, there you go. That's a little bit of it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for that, Chris. So, to understand the problem, where is the problem? Why is the problem? How is this problem a problem? Because when you grow up, you experiment, you understand the world on of different types of world that exist for a person growing up, especially somewhere between 13 to 17, 18, and you want to know about it. And the things that you looks like challenging, people discover it in their own way. There is a healthy way to look at it, there is a problematic way where it becomes actually a problem. Is it that the discovery part is the problem, or is it because it's a big industry down there and it is discoverable through internet, and then it becomes a problem which needs to be solved, rather than that get fizzled out as soon as you attain that sort of uh, understanding of the world, a better world, and then you look at life in a much more normal manner beyond the discovery part. Where is the problem here, Chris?
That's a great question. There are certainly a few. It's just the reality that when it comes to when children are being exposed to pornography, there was a study done in 2024 where children are being exposed to porn as young as 10 to 12 years old. But here we are in 2026, it's going down as far as like how old a child is, because like you said, it's a big industry. And with unlimited access to the internet, someone as young as 9 can be exposed, fairly early on, not on purpose, but this is why it's so important to have these types of conversations. Like, hey, this is what this is. When it comes to conversations about your body, when it comes to conversations about what to expect when you're a child growing into a young adult, growing into an adult. Like these are the types of things that are to be expected. And the less shame and the less shadiness and the less secrecy we have around these conversations, we can take away the fear around them. We can take away the uncomfortability around them. But as far as what one of the major problems is, for my money, it has a lot to do with the conversation around something like internet safety and particularly pornography, particularly with this generation right now, like Gen Z, Gen Alpha, whatever you want to call them. I learned a lot while teaching during the pandemic, right? And here we were teaching online, and especially for my young students, I used to teach elementary school all the way to high school, but particularly for my younger students, what were they learning at the time? Because of the way things were in the world at that time, we were teaching them that everything they could ever want or need can be found through a screen. So here you are. Okay, here's where we're going to do school. Okay, here's where your family and friends are going to be. Okay, here's your entertainment. Here's all of the information you could possibly want can be found. So when it comes to the way that their body is changing and the new sensations they're experiencing, all of the answers to some of their questions can be found through a screen. Now, maybe these answers won't be the right ones. Maybe the answers won't be specific to them as an individual, as a unique human being, but they'll be able to find those answers a lot faster. And you don't have to engage in an otherwise awkward conversation with another person. But those are ultimately the skills that we're trying to reinstill in a young person's life, like how to relearn how to lean on other people. It's like, we're having young people engage with Chat GPT, for example, for therapy. Like AI is not a therapist, but interacting with a human being It might not be a, for lack of a better term, perfect conversation, but we're trying to reinstill a sense of humanity, to be able to engage with another person so that you can do that self awareness work, like what's going on internally to the point where it's affecting me externally, and to confide in and engage with another human being. So, what's the problem? It's pretty much all of those. So, just to really summarize, there's that lack of engagement with another person. It's going to be awkward sometimes. I mean, raise your hand if you've ever had an awkward conversation in your life. I certainly have. Or discomfort, but that's what life is, you know? And the more we deviate away from that, the more we lose that sense of humanity. I know we're kind of speaking in grand terms here, but it really just stems from those types of conversations. How are you feeling? What is it that you think is important? What are you thinking about? And being able to provide an open space and atmosphere for a child to process and for a child to feel safe to share those things. Because otherwise, if we're avoiding certain conversations, the internet will provide an answer. Again, it might not be the right answer, but it will be one nonetheless. So it's up to us as parents and guardians to be able to, again, not expect them to be perfect, but be very, very clear about what is reality and what is fantasy, what is true and what is false, and just general things to look out for. Because we're talking about a generation that doesn't know what life is like before social media. You know what I mean? Like, it's a different age.
Right.
You know what I mean? In the age of artificial intelligence and social media and fake news, as it's, there's a popular term in the United States, what can I believe? We want to give this generation a space that they can trust, a space that they can lean on, a space that they can be seen and not judged in, you know? So that's ultimately my mission with Rebooted Team. So what we're trying to do is no longer put a spotlight on the problem, but a spotlight on the solution, community, accountability, and a system that works. So I know I kind of went all over the place, but I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. It does it very well, Chris. And that is where I want to understand is that I am from India. I am in India, talking to you from India
Mm-hmm.
in the US. In India, culturally, or because of the way our society is, if someone were not to discuss this, it is still understandable. In the US, it's much more open society from a long time. People talk about it. The system is that is what people understand. A lot of people would find it difficult to believe that people can be more open in their life but cannot discuss these things, or there is not much of, especially young people.
Hmm.
Isn't the education system designed in a way that before they jump into 18 plus, into that sort of life where you can take decisions for yourself in that way, isn't the system preparing them to have conversations around this? Is it the education system somewhat not able to do the work that is supposed to be done? Because that is one of the places where a child spends a lot of time. Also parents, there it is much more, parents are working, they may not have that much of time, or maybe they are single mothers are there, single parents are there, they may be going through their own difficult times, the economy. So why is it that the basic, guardrails that are there, as long with the freedom that a child has, why is it that it is not working in your part of the world, Chris, so that it becomes a problem?
Mm-hmm.
If it does not become a problem, it is okay. But when the whole society or the authorities know that uh, pornography is such a big problem and an industry, that vested interests will continue to gate crash into your children's mobile devices especially.
Mm-hmm.
Help us understand that part.
From my perspective as an American, there is a lot of open dialogue and conversation about sex, about pornography. I mean, there's the popular phrase sex sells, right? But a lot of the underlying themes of these types of conversations includes an area of shame. It includes an area of guilt tripping. It includes an area of this is a taboo subject, when in reality, it's a part of life. I mean, we all came from
Right.
somewhere, right? So, as far as, what's going on here and what I hope to advocate for is that sense of balance. So, what I mean by that is acknowledging that, yes, sex is a part of life and it is something that's real. Pornography is a part of life, as in it exists, but it's not real. But when you are a young child and very impressionable, you don't quite understand that difference yet. And when you are exposed at an early age, like if the internet is your first sexual education teacher, everything else is going to either pale in comparison and lead to some understandable confusion. So if a child is exposed to pornography and mom, dad, whoever's at home finds out about it, and they lead with shame, like, this is not how I raised you. How could you watch this stuff? How could you watch this filth? There is going to be some understandable tension inside the child
Right.
where it's like, okay, mom says this is wrong, but this feels good. So I don't know who's right or wrong, but someone's wrong, you know?
Right.
So this is why, again, when it comes to conversations here in the West, yes, comparatively to the East, it might be more open, but there is that underlying sense of confusion and guilt because for some that might advocate for pornography, it's very, rah rah, and it's very open and anything goes. But then there's another extreme part of the spectrum where we completely cut it off. So there are many conversations about it, but there are many conflicting opinions, which leads to some understandable confusion. For example, if somebody comes from a religious household, right? And there's the verse that says, your body is a temple. It's to be respected. It's been designed for a specific purpose. And if it deviates away from that purpose, then you are a sinner. Then you're doing something wrong. Then you are bad, and there's a lot of conflicting ideas that, especially when you're young and impressionable, when you're introduced to so many perspectives at the same time, it's like, no wonder we're talking about a generation that is more riddled with anxiety than previous generations. I mean, here we have like fast, immediate exposure to the internet at all times. It's like within 2 minutes, you can be exposed to so many different perspectives all at the same time, which is why ultimately my mission is to advocate for conversation. It starts there. It's not my job to tell a parent, for example, how to raise their child. That's not my role. My role is to give a parent tools, to give them assistance, to hold them accountable to following through with keeping their eye on the target. What I mean by that, let's say your child is exposed to porn, right? And you don't know how to talk about it. Remember what the mission is. It's not just about parent versus child. It's the parent and the child together versus the problem. It's about working as a team. Now, you as a parent or guardian, you're the captain of that team, but you're working together to solve the problem. The problem being, I feel confused. I feel conflicted. I don't know what the right thing to do is. And I'm freaking out. We all remember adolescence, and it's a really volatile era. But having a shame-free adult to be able to facilitate that journey is to overwhelmingly increase the likelihood of a child being more grounded and more self-aware and shameless in their decision making. At the end of the day, that's the mission.
That's the mission. So, amidst all the different stages of this problem or issue, when is the best time to inject the solution? How? How do you do it? What is the role of parents here? What is the role of community here? What is the role of educators and the education system here?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, when it comes to some first few steps as far as how to get these types of conversations started, like what to say, what not to say, there is, the free resources online, rebootedteen.com, to feel free to check it out. But as far as some maybe red flags to look out for, how do you know if it's time to maybe bring the topic of internet safety, of hey, your body is growing, here's some things to expect about pornography? How do you know when it's time to bring up a conversation like that? And I break it down into three basic categories. We have behavioral cues, technological cues, and social cues, just things to look out for. So when I'm talking about behavioral cues, let's start there. We're talking about, do you notice whether or not your child has more secrecy when it comes to their devices? Don't touch my phone. Don't look at my iPad. If they're using more like sexualized language, around you or around their friends, right? And it's just an opportunity to, again, engage in a conversation. Like, where is that coming from? Where did you hear that? What are you feeling right now? It's just things to watch out for. So those are the behavioral cues, like, oh, it might be time to engage in a conversation. As far as technology goes, I mean, there might be some obvious ones, like if you use a family computer, for example, if you notice some suggestive things in the search history, for example. Do you notice that your child has multiple apps on their phone or tablet or iPad for chatting and, watching content? Because I have a whole Instagram page that's filled with warning signs, like different apps that will lead a child to adult content even when they don't mean to. It's all over the place. But do you notice that they have multiple apps for chatting, for content browsing, things like that? Just something to be aware of. But as far as social cues go, I mean, when they speak, do you notice the sense of cynicism, like a sense of pessimism when it comes to things like relationships, when it comes to men, when it comes to women, when it comes to marriage, right? Is just something to be aware of. Do you notice a sense of curiosity that seems beyond their age range? It's just some simple sets of things to watch out for and be on the lookout for, like a detective, Do you notice one of those things? And like I said, it doesn't automatically mean that sound the alarm, like emergency, emergency, but it is an opportunity to engage in a conversation. I mean, in the age of social media, in the age of influencers, remember that if you're a parent watching or listening to this, you are your child's original influencer. So with that, if anything, I would just want to encourage someone who's watching or listening to walk in that confidence. Like, you have what it takes to influence your child. And sometimes it's not always just about like, okay, let's solve the problem here together right now in this one single conversation. This is a process. It's like showing somebody a horror movie for the first time. It's sort of like, okay, I know where the jump scares are. Like, I know what is coming. You've seen this movie before. So it can be up to you to remind them that A, you are their advocate. It's like you're on the same team. Again, you're the captain of the team, but you're going to be working together. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that you are the facilitator to their journey. The older they get, they're wanting to claim more independence. It's like you can only have them ride their bike with the training wheels for so long. When they're ready to take them off, when they're ready to start riding on their own, it's just about not, running alongside them, making sure that they don't fall, being like a helicopter parent, but yeah, like doing what you can to encourage them that if they fall, they can get back up and keep riding. And if they're hurt, they can go to you as a safe source, as a safe place. So be aware of your expectations and your intentions when it comes to these types of conversations. You know what I mean? Remain curious about what are they feeling? Like, what is it that they are going through? It's a different generation. It's a different world that the world that I was raised in or you were raised in. Like, what is life like through their eyes, And one simple thing to keep in mind, and I'll end it here, when you engage in these conversations, I like to call it the 3 C's. What can you emphasize? There's conversation, context, and consent. So conversation being the obvious one of the most healing things and most helpful things that you can do is choose conversation over concealing. Oh, I can't talk about this. Conversation heals and makes recovery a ton easier. Holding stuff back will only increase the weight on you. But if you provide a space where someone can let it go, take that weight off, the higher the likelihood is that a child's mental health will increase. Conversation. There's context. So especially when a child is young, understanding that something like sex has a time and a place, right? Context. This is what this is. This is what this is for. And consent, meaning when you're exposed to porn at an early age, you're likely not having a conversation when it comes to consent. Like everybody involved, there's permission, there's conversation before a physical act happens. There's a relationship in a healthy circumstance, right? There is consent. There is knowing the person and not expecting certain things in a relationship, There are really, really important things to dive into. We talk about it in the program, but one simple way to keep in mind as far as what to hit on, remember the 3 C's: conversation, context, and consent. So I think that's at least a nice place to have an adult who doesn't really know how to start having these conversations. It's a nice place to start from.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, is it that the parents are all alone? There are other places beyond you. Are there other places that they can seek help from or should seek help from?
Absolutely. Well, community is everything. The more, if there's anything that I've learned in my own recovery journey, it's that the more personal something feels, the more universal it actually is. It's just like this human nature connecting type of thing. We all know what it's like to feel misunderstood in our own way. We all know what it's like to feel frustrated and rejected maybe. But if there is a community to confide in, people to trade notes with, and people to hold you accountable, then you're more likely to get where you want to go. And for example, there's the Rebooted Teen Parent Program. There is our Facebook community where you can do just that. So that way you're not just learning all on your own. There are actual human beings from all around the world that get it. Because everybody that comes to me, they say, I love what you have to offer, but, there's no one to really, like I said, just trade notes with or confide in. That's what the community is for. So if you really want to bring this thing to life and to put your tensions or your insecurities or confusion at ease, then I'd like to extend an olive branch and lend my hand to not just show you what you can do, but introduce you to a community that I think will really bless you and I think will really help you out. I think will really remind you that you're not alone. It's the day and age, and if you're feeling like you're always playing catch up on how technology is growing, on how the influence of something like pornography is expanding as far as this generation's state of mental health, and you're feeling like, it's like you're trying to pour the ocean into a cup. Like there's a world of information and you can only handle so much. What we do is we break it down, we meet you where you're at, and if you feel it's the right move for your child to receive that type of individualized coaching to meet them where they're at, again, it's not telling you how to be a parent, it's providing reinforcements. Like all the best athletes in the world have coaches. You are your parent. So let me take that back. You are your child's original influencer. So walk in that confidence. And if you feel you need some extra assistance or resources to do your job even better, then the Rebooted Teen Parent Program is for you. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. So, what is the best way for, parents to connect with you?
Yeah, like I said, if you're interested in learning more, if you take something away from this conversation, you can check out rebootedteen.com, and that's where you'll find the free resources in the Rebooted Teen Parent Program. And like I said, if you feel it's the right move, if you're getting a lot of value, then there is the Facebook community where you can engage with others that are going through the program themselves. And if you want some samples of some of this work, I'm also on Instagram at Rebooted Teen, all one word. Feel free to check it out there. And again, if you are feeling more confident through your implementation of what's in the parent program, then I would love to help your child and help you as much as I can through our exclusive Rebooted Teen program. So again, my name is Chris Rogers. You can find me at Rebooted Teen on Instagram as well as rebootedteen.com.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.